Okay, welcome. Thank you for having us with you. It's a real privilege to be here. And for those of you who don't know, we're from Pregnancy Crisis Care in Plymouth. Oh. This one? Does this work? Okay. So we're going to share a PowerPoint presentation, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a background to that before we share that. So actually I can go right back to when I was 15 or 16, which is several years ago now, and I met Heather and Steve in Gosport, and that's where I became a Christian. So I was introduced to pregnancy crisis type of work through them back then. Since then, I moved to Plymouth and Scotland and different things. Anyway, that's a long story in itself. And I started to volunteer in Plymouth at a place called Life. And it was run by a lot of older Roman Catholic women. And it was a real privilege to work there and to be involved with them. And they taught me how to do pregnancy testing, and they taught me how to do post-abortion counselling. And it was really there that I started to feel God's heart for the broken-hearted woman who, we know that life is sanctified, holy, we love babies, but actually there's lots of people in the world that do have terminations, and it's heartbreaking. And I really felt God's heart back then for the woman who's gone through post-abortion, and his heart for them. So fast forward a few years after that, I went through a difficult time in my life, but I really felt God call me to a conference in Glasgow called Impact Your World. And I heard Jackie Pullinger speaking there. And I went to all her social action talks, and I knew that God was calling me to do something, but I didn't quite know what. I came back to Plymouth, and to cut a long story short, because it is quite a long story, but I met a friend of a friend through Heather again, and she had the same heart about people in crisis pregnancy and post-abortion. So we met up and we started to pray, and really were led by Isaiah 61, God's heart for the brokenhearted and binding up the wounded. So we started praying together, and we did some training in Cornwall, actually, and then we came back into Plymouth. We set up a meeting, and to cut another long story short, we gathered some women together who wanted to come on team. We started training them, and back in 2008, we started to open up the centre, Pregnancy Crisis Care. So we're now in our 14th year, and we'll talk you through this as we go. So I just wanted to give you a bit of backstory there, because although we're not a Christian charity, we're mostly all Christians within the centre. There are a couple of student counsellors who aren't, but we do pray in the background for our clients, and we've seen some amazing things happen. And this work is very much on God's heart. So that's where we're coming from. But this is a bit of an overview of who we are and where we're at now. So as I say, launched in 2008, now in our 14th year, and providing free counselling for any individual or couple who face any kind of pregnancy-related crisis or loss. And that's just our charity number up there.
Yeah. Can you put the next slide on, please? So this is where we're based. We've got premises in the Plymouth City Centre, second floor of a building. So over the last couple of years, obviously, we've had to diversify a little bit. So we are now offering face-to-face counselling, but we also work remotely as well. So we offer counselling on a Zoom and telephone as well as face-to-face. The next slide. So this is just to give you some statistics. I won't read them all out, but it's estimated that 1 in 4 pregnancies in the UK end in loss during pregnancy or birth. And actually, it's probably a lot higher than that, because a lot of baby loss goes unreported. And 1 in 3 women have had an abortion. And then if you just look on the right-hand side, that just gives you some up-to-date statistics for 2020. So 2,000 babies born alive. And then on top of that, 500 babies were miscarried, 150 babies preterm, and 7 babies stillborn. So that's every day in 2020. Next slide. We also support couples that are struggling with fertility issues. So you can see there that 1 in 8 couples will struggle with fertility issues. 16% of those women face challenges relating to fertility, and over 3.5 million people in the UK go through some kind of fertility challenge. So that can often be quite long-term work with clients, but that's probably increased quite a lot, hasn't it, over the last few years?
So the clients we see are very varied. There are professional women and men. There are people that are students, asylum seekers, vulnerable women, basically aged between 13 and 65, although Sarah's just started seeing somebody who's 70. So we're not really, it's no upper age limit really. Often people have been through domestic abuse or past abuse, but everybody's got some sort of pregnancy crisis. Different ethnicities, much more so these days as well. And we just show love and care and compassion to each one of them, no matter what they've been through. So our team, there's just a few snapshots there of everybody who's been involved with the centre, either currently or in the recent past. They're all very committed, compassionate women who really care. Some have got their own experiences, but they're all just wanting to see and support women in crisis.
So just to give you some idea of client statistics, so as Jane said, when we started in 2008, we saw 35 clients that year, and then in 2020, that actually went to 223. The last year, so from August 2020 to July 2021, numbers went down a little bit due to COVID, but it was still 149, and it would still be a lot of clients from previous years, because like I said, we would support some people really long term. And out of those 149, 26 were crisis pregnancy, 18 post-abortion, 75 baby loss, 21 sort of pregnancy tests and pregnancy support, and then 6 other things which would include sort of traumatic birth, postnatal depression, and anxiety. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of the type of people that we see.
Yeah, and just to give you some team backgrounds, as you saw the team earlier, there's former midwives, practice nurses, counsellors, sexual health workers, radiographer, student counsellors on placement, some NHS employees, so a really varied team, and a team of trustees as well.
Next slide. So what we do, so just to kind of give you a little bit more information, those facing an unexpected pregnancy, so they would maybe just come in for 1 or 2 sessions, those facing emotional difficulties after termination, support and counselling, like I've mentioned, those struggling with infertility or failed IVF, and probably a big part of our work is those suffering complex grief after baby loss, so that can include miscarriage, stillbirth, ectopic and neonatal death. Quite often when people first come for a baby loss, they then go on to get pregnant, and there's those obvious anxieties around that pregnancy, so we offer that support while that person is pregnant as well, up until they give birth, and traumatic birth as well.
So we set up as a local charity, and with charities you have to find running costs. So we actually pray. We're amazingly blessed by God. He's been so faithful to us in all of our funding efforts and fundraising efforts. So although this is a list of people that have either currently or in the past funded us, we always give the glory to God, because we trust him we live year to year by faith, to be honest. And we're very blessed if we get a grant given to us, but we just trust God. Next slide, please. Yeah, 2020 to 2022, obviously a very challenging year for everybody. Both for us and as a charity, we couldn't see people face to face, obviously, so we had to move to another mode. As Sarah's already mentioned, we see people on Zoom video, and that continues. And as well as telephone and face-to-face stopped at the time, but we have gone back to some face-to-face now. And over COVID, it was really difficult for some people because they were so isolated. Women were having to go to scans on their own, sometimes getting really bad news on their own. It was really quite a traumatic time, and because of the risk of COVID, they didn't know about the impact on the baby or pregnancy. So people were really stuck on their own. So we were literally a lifeline to a lot of women at that time.
This just gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the fundraising activities that we have had over the past few years. So we have an annual quiz night, which was fairly recently at the end of February, and that's always really good fun and a good fundraiser. Various different things, birthday fundraisers, people doing half marathons for us, and down in the right-hand corner, there's a guy called Tim, who you'll be hearing him and his wife's story a little bit later, actually, but he came to the centre for counselling after they went through quite a traumatic baby loss, and after that he decided he wanted to do some fundraising for us. Never an expectation, but always lovely when people offered to do that, and he did a cycle ride from London to Paris and raised quite a substantial amount of money, and he's actually now a trustee as well, so that's brilliant. Yeah, we try to keep really strong links with other agencies in the city. So there's just a list of some people that might refer to us. So quite a wide range.
And we link in with, again, different agencies in the city. So we try to work collaboratively. We receive referrals from the NHS and different local agencies or social care. And we also refer people on, so there's sometimes SANs have got groups where we can refer people on to group support work, saying goodbye services. Some of our clients will go to those in the city when it comes to Plymouth.
And people can self-refer as well, can't they? So they don't have to be referred by someone, but they can actually just get in touch themselves as well.
Yeah. So here's just some client feedback. There's a couple of quotes we've got. This one: the sessions have given me more confidence in expressing myself about how I'm feeling. It's only now I feel like I'm possibly returning to a former self, which I'm not sure I would have achieved without counselling.
And then another one: I cannot put into words how valuable the counselling I received at the centre has been, and give you all my heartfelt thanks for all the work that you do. You are lights in a dark place, and the world so needs you.
And I think just before we do the video, I'm just going to read that last quote here, because I don't know, when God just impresses you on with something. The last quote here with the life belt: just keep doing what you're doing. Without your help, I really don't know where I'd be right now. You threw me a life jacket when I was drowning and helped me to keep my head above the water. Thank you. And over this last week, I keep seeing that life belt. I've seen it several different times. I'm not quite sure what God's saying in it, but I do think the work that we do, we're throwing out a lifeline to people. People are often not just isolated, they're living with such grief that they don't have people to talk to, or even if they have got people around them, they don't always say the right things. And so I just know that we are God in the community. He's very much with us. As I said, we pray for each person before and after they've come into the centre. And we've seen some amazing stories come forth. You'll hear one in a minute from Tim and Rosie, but we also had grandmas come up to us in church and say, you don't know me, but my daughter came to you. We didn't know if she was going to have a termination, but she actually chose to carry on with the pregnancy, and now I'm a grandma. We've had several stories of that. And somebody right in the early days, her mum and dad became Christians. She eventually became a Christian, and her son, he got baptised. He must be 14 now, because it was right at the beginning, and he asked us to go to his baptism. And so there's just so many stories that we don't always know what we do. We don't always see the impact of it, but God knows. And there was one time a few years ago, I was walking down Union Street in Plymouth, and I saw a lady that she was mixed race, and she was just very stunning. And I recognised her as one of our early clients. And she had a crisis pregnancy back then, and we didn't know what she chose. But this beautiful daughter was walking alongside her, probably about 6 or 7 then. And I just felt God whisper and say, you don't know the impact you're having on this city. So we do our bit, and we trust God for the rest of it. And I hope that this talk tonight has helped you get a taste of what we do. And the story of the video hopefully will say a bit more. Thank you.
She was 25 weeks, and we knew there was a problem beforehand, and then we found out a few weeks later that she died. So we had to go down to Derriford for the delivery, and just going through that whole process is obviously absolutely horrendous for both of us. And I just remember leaving the hospital, and they give you an amazing little box that lots of people have put a lot of work and effort in. I didn't open that box for a few weeks, but then when I did, one of the things I found in there was the pregnancy crisis care card. That's probably the biggest thing that kind of helped us.
I was very reticent to start with. I thought actually it might be easier just to try and get on with life and put it out of our minds, but you were quite adamant that we should come and speak to somebody, and I was really glad in the end.
From my point of view as a man, actually the really good thing is just having a space that you can just come and talk. And I know other friends who've used it who the husband has actually come separately as well as coming together, and I think that's just been really helpful that as men we do struggle to talk about things, and actually knowing it's okay to have these feelings and okay to grieve.
It's a very safe space where everybody's really kind and understanding, and that's exactly what you need when you're going through a lot. And I think to feel like we're not alone in feeling how we were feeling, and that the process of grieving is a normal thing that you have to go through. I was adamant that we weren't going to have any more children because I couldn't cope with the possibility of it happening again, or just the feeling of waiting for that 20-week scan and waiting to find out whether there was a problem with the baby or not. I think you were quite keen to have more children.
Oh yeah.
And our 5-year-old Bella was desperate to have a living sibling. We found out we were pregnant last September, or last end of August, and it was a complete shock and a complete surprise.
Yeah, we weren't planning it or anything. I think we had both decided that it was that was it for us.
Getting to the 20-week scan was a really difficult thing because you kind of convince yourself that it's all going to go wrong again. Anyway, we got through the 20-week scan and found out that we're having a boy this time, which we're really excited about.
A bit of a shock as well. No idea what to do with the boy, but we'll find out, I'm sure.
Yeah, and this pregnancy has been going really well.
For me, Pregnancy Crisis Care has helped me through one of the most difficult times of my life. Without their support, where we would be now would be very different.
Yeah, so we're open to any questions, but I hope that's given you a flavour of what we do. I did want to say the reason that we're not a Christian charity, we sort of walk down the middle road of grace and truth. There's sometimes people in the community that get a whiff that we're Christians and they think we're anti-abortion. We all have our own personal walk with that, but we feel like God gives us all free choice actually, and we're there to support the woman in crisis. So we don't judge, and we just love her through that and hope that she makes a good choice. But even if she doesn't make a good choice, we'll love her anyways. So because of that, and then some churches say, well, why aren't you anti-abortion? But actually, again, God gives us all free choice, doesn't he? And we all make mistakes in life. Some are bigger than others, and there's massive consequences for those who make bad choices. But we still walk in that grace and truth path. So that's why we're not a Christian charity, but we are mostly Christians within it. So, yeah, we keep going and we keep trusting. It's emotional work, but God's so faithful, and we just see many, many miracles. People becoming pregnant who can't get pregnant, and, amazing loads of stories. Lots of people's babies born this year that we've heard of, isn't it? But yeah, thank you for having us with you. We have got some leaflets here if anybody wants some. And in September, we've got a charity ball in the 24th of September in Borrington Park Golf Club. If anybody's interested, you can get in touch with us either with the booking form we've got with us or by emailing us. But thank you.